Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Black Womening in Corporate America, the podcast. I'm your host, Nicole S. Palmer. Happy to have you here. We are now at episode 5. Funny how time flies. So we're looking at just a little over a month, and I'm happy you joined me. I'm going to be incognito today. I'd like to experiment and see what types of different formats work best. I've been experimenting with one of my channels, and I'm really enjoying this different side. I will be back on camera at some point, but for now, just wanted to chop it up a little bit and talk to you guys today about something I've been thinking about. And if you joined me last week, I talked all about transactional, situational, and conditional relationships. And if you want to know more, definitely check it out. Episode 4. I will also link it to this video now that I'm hitting my stride and learning how to work the cards and how to add them in the YouTube studio. So I'll definitely add it here as well. So something I wanted to talk about that is very much tied to the book, but I thought it had a broader aspect to it that I wanted to tease out a little bit. And one of the things I talk about in my book, it's actually tied to one of the rules, and I'm not going to give it away just yet. Buy the book if you want to know which rule I'm talking about. But one of the concepts I talk about is something that I talked about with a good friend that I met up with last week, Saturday, actually. And we had this really rich conversation. We caught up on a lot of stuff, actually. It's someone that I got to know at my last corporate job, which sounds weird to say because clearly I've had other corporate jobs since the fateful departure, if you will. But I would say this was my most significant relationship professionally in terms of careers and roles. So I met her there, and we've kept in touch, which has been great. And I really enjoyed catching up with her. But something we talked about that I'm seeing play out right now, actually, and we're definitely going to talk about it because I'm not one to shy away from those uncomfortable conversations. So we're going to just jump right on in. So something that I've noticed, especially on LinkedIn, is aside from the fact that I do believe that LinkedIn is extremely saturated right now, and that's not necessarily a bad or a good thing. It just is, right? You have an incredible amount of individuals who are on LinkedIn, who are sharing their thoughts as content creators, as thought leaders, sharing opinion pieces. And I think it's all fantastic because I certainly get a lot out of it. But speaking as someone who is a writer, and I alluded to this a little bit on my last LinkedIn post, and what I've really, there's something you struggle with, especially as someone who is trying to make their mark, if you will, within any space. And what I find myself struggling with is breaking past that inevitable juncture we all get to where we ask ourselves, is the juice worth the squeeze? And this will happen for every single type of content creator there is out there, especially in the beginning. Everyone doesn't go viral, despite what YouTube leads you to believe, or TikTok, or wherever you're watching or reading. Everyone does not become an overnight sensation. The truth of the matter is that the bulk of us actually build our audience over time. And I say audience because at the end of the day, every person that is sharing a part of who they are, especially their creative side, with the world, has an audience. And the trick is to find or connect with your audience. And I thought this was really such a great topic to explore because I do feel that it also is very relative to even corporate spaces and personal spaces. But as a Black woman, especially, I think right now, what I'm seeing is this huge surge among professional Black women who are in their me era. And I think it's fantastic. It makes my heart swell with pride and just joy because honestly, it's about damn time. And so it's great to see this surge of Black professional women who are putting themselves out there, who are setting up shop within their corner of LinkedIn and sharing their skill set, sharing their abilities, their talents, and looking to make connections out there. And I find that amazing because I do feel it was long overdue. And I'm so glad that's the space we're in. And I do believe that the election did have a lot to do with it, if I'm being completely honest, where you get to the point where you're saying, you know what? And I see this phrase used a lot in a lot of the LinkedIn individuals that I follow, where they're saying, I'm no longer going to set myself on fire to keep others warm. And it's such a really striking phrase to say, but it's so powerful because I really get that. And I think what's interesting for me anyway is that I have been doing this entrepreneurial thing for a long time. It's just that I've been doing it essentially in the shadows or in really incognito, if you will, where I was more behind the scenes. I had opinions about things, but I really just kept them to myself. And I spent a lot of time writing under pen names and writing for other people as a ghostwriter and just really hiding my real identity, because at the time I was really wanting to make sure that it didn't clash with my professional work, because that is also a huge challenge that we have to contend with, especially as Black women, where we have these opinions and not based on anything other than facts, to be clear, but we have these opinions based on experiences we have in the workplace. And when we are still in a role that requires us to essentially keep those two lives separate, it's very easy to censor or mute yourself because you are obviously concerned about potential fallout if you were to dare speak out and really say how you feel about a particular situation. But over the years, and obviously this is something that really came to be really in this new chapter of my life, it took me walking away from a job that was making me physically, mentally, and spiritually sick, and all of the other dimensions you can think of. It took me walking away from that role to feel free, to speak my truth, to step into my purpose. And I'll be honest with you, it was one of the most terrifying things I've done. And just thinking back, even in that time frame where I mentioned this in last week's episode, where I was actually hiding. I was hiding from LinkedIn, from my network, because there was a time where I was trying to really step and own my narrative. And I got all of this horrible backlash from others in terms of the content that I was sharing. And it wasn't even that they even took the time to read the book. It was just they saw the title and said no. And I thought that was interesting. And even now, funnily enough, I believe I mentioned this last week, where I have my book available on NetGalley, and it's being rated solely on the cover, and it has twice as many dislikes as it has likes. And I wonder why that is, but we'll leave it there. But my point is that once you own your narrative, and once you're in the space where you're no longer afraid what others think of you, and you're leaning in to your identity and you're speaking truth to power. And what's interesting is that most of us don't do it in a way that should make anybody feel uncomfortable, but still they do. The idea of speaking about race and bias and macroaggressions and microaggressions just makes people bristle. And so it doesn't matter how we say it, is that we're saying it at all that makes people uncomfortable. So when I walked away from my role, I made a promise to myself, never again. And so while I am still very much in corporate America right now, and all things go according to plan, and I'm speaking it out into existence, this will be the last year that I will say that. It's different. I've decided to wall myself off from relationships, and it may sound callous or cold, but once you've been in corporate America the way that I was, and you're trampled over in terms of your identity, in terms of your values, in terms of misconceptions that people have about you, when all of that is trampled or taken advantage of, you develop a defense mechanism by design and by no choice because of what you experience. And right now, I'm in this great place where I can be in corporate America, but not be in corporate America. There's a difference. And if my mom was saying it her way growing up in the church, this is what we call being in the world, but not of the world. You see what I'm saying? And if you get it, if you've been in the church, you get what I'm saying. So there's a difference between being in corporate America and being of corporate America. Totally big difference. And I'm in a place where I am not of corporate America because I'm not chasing the ladder anymore. I'm not chasing the role or the title. I already have the title. I created the title I wanted for myself by launching my own company and really leaning into this with my husband. We jointly launched this together, and I'm excited about it. And no one can tell me no, because it is our baby. It is something that we've created. And I see that all across. I see, like I said, this renaissance, this awakening among Black women that is so exciting and so heartwarming to see. But there's a but. The but to that I'm noticing, and maybe it's just me, and if it's not, please let me know in the comments, because I am curious. I am genuinely curious about this. I am noticing an undercurrent. Two undercurrents is what I'm noticing. One undercurrent that I'm noticing is this general resentment and tone among certain Black women. Yes, I said it. Oh my gosh, I know, that's so terrible. How dare I speak about our own people? But you will get nothing if not 100% transparency and truth from me. And when you get the book, because I'm also speaking that into existence, you will understand that there is a 100%, it's a full picture. I think this is where you can say 360, because I'm not saying spin around, but it's a full 360 picture of what it really is to Black women in corporate America, what the essence of Black women in corporate America really is. And part of that is how we move with, for, and against each other, unfortunately. And so I'm noticing this one undercurrent where there's this level of disdain and judgment and frustration from one set of the populace. And I'm noticing this more specifically among Black women. And again, I want to hear your thoughts on this, but there's this general disdain for those of us who are what I've seen termed as peddling our wares. If that's and y'all let me know what y'all think about that. But there's this general disdain or exhaustion, like, oh my gosh, everyone here's a podcast, there's a podcast, here's somebody offering coaching services, here's somebody offering one-on-one and all these other things. And I'm seeing a general disdain from a subset. I'm not saying all, be very clear with my words. I'm not saying all Black women. I'm saying a subset of our population has this general, like they almost feel fatigued. Oh my gosh, another coaching. Oh my gosh, another podcast. Oh my God, like really, everyone is at another book. We're only just getting started, people. I would understand if we had been doing this all along, but remember, we have not had the same opportunities as others. So we should be doing nothing but celebrating. And I say this as someone who herself is trying to make a name for herself. That's just the reality of it. And there's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. And I hope that if you are in that subset that maybe is finding it a little bit exhausting because that's not your bag, that's not your desire to really pursue that. Nothing wrong with that. Actually, that's great, because if all of us were doing it, there'd be like, everyone can't do it, right? And that's okay. We all have a different calling. We all have a different purpose and passion in life. And I think that's great. But I hope that we move away from this notion that we don't have the right to leverage LinkedIn or any other platform to really share our passions with the world, because how else would we do it? This is an online world that we're in. And so how else do we connect with others if we don't do it through the platforms where we find our people? And I think this also ties back, and I see some do it, and this is, again, purely out of observation, because if you were to look at my LinkedIn feed, you would understand that my LinkedIn feed has become very curated over the years by design. And so I see a whole bunch, and that's by design again. I see nothing but Black women, and I love it. And sometimes it gets a little wonky because I get weird suggestions. And I think to myself, LinkedIn, have we met? What is this over here? But because of that, I see this wide array of viewpoints, which I love, but I also find very fascinating, where there's a subset that are just generally exhausted, like, just, okay, I'm done hearing about your coaching or your podcast, another book. Okay, we get it. We're just getting started. And so I hope that we are open to the notion or possibility that we should focus on celebrating, right? Because when someone other than us does it, it seems like it's the norm and it's acceptable. Why can't it be acceptable for us as well? If you look at the numbers, there's a reason why more of us are turning to entrepreneurship. We know this as a fact. I have seen so many posts and so many individuals on my feed, specifically Black women, that turn to entrepreneurship after months, if not years, of unemployment. So sometimes it is 100% born out of necessity. It's unfortunate that's the case, but sometimes it is 100% born out of necessity. I recently actually saw this fantastic story of this woman on LinkedIn, this Black woman who catfished the LinkedIn population by creating two profiles. One profile was her genuine profile as a Black woman, and another she created as a white woman. And the offers that she received on the quote unquote white side were staggering in comparison to what she did or essentially did not receive on the other side. And so we're at this crossroads, and I do feel that some of it does, and you can argue with or against this, some of it does stem from this election, where we saw on the greatest stage of all that at the end of the day, we are Black first, woman second. And despite our hopes and our wishes and our dreams, Kamala was never going to be elected president. Full stop. And I say that as someone who is a Black woman who has been there, nowhere near as a big stage, let me be clear. But I know that my overachieving women, I know my driven Black women that are listening to this, you all have your very own story where you were passed over for a less qualified and less worthy individual that most often than not you had to train. You think there's not going to be a transition that happens when the Oval Office is transferred over? Absolutely. So think about that, magnified times 10. We have all been there. And so to me, when that happened, it was the country collectively saying to Black women, we're not checking for you. And I haven't studied this. And if someone has or can point me to a study that has looked at this, please let me know, because I find it very fascinating how there seems to be a correlation between what has happened on the bigger stage and corporate America in general, where people are just not checking for Black women like that because we're to this, we're to that. You fill in the blanks. You've heard it all before, so I don't have to rehash it for you. So there's this general rejection that I'm seeing of Black women. And it's almost as if this rejection of Kamala gave people who were in the closet with their racism and bias permission to be fully out in the open. And I'm not saying it didn't happen before then, but there's some extra sauce that I have noticed. And so I say all this to say that let us live. Those of us who have decided that we are rejecting corporate America and the terms that it is under right now, let us live. Let us pursue our passion. Here's the other undercurrent, because remember I told you there were two that I noticed. So the one undercurrent is where there's this subset of Black women that are basically saying to us who are pushing our goals and our products and our dreams, really, those products are our dreams. And they're saying to us, you're doing too much. You're doing too much, calm down. There's another subset, unfortunately, among the very group that is out here pushing their dreams and their passions and their products, whatever the case is. There's this other undercurrent that I notice where, and it translates very much, you'll notice, it translates very much to the level of support that Black women who are stepping out into their calling receive. There's this other undercurrent from those who are on their way where they are saying, only I matter. And that's a very dangerous place to be. And I say that looking very clearly at the type of content that I see posted that almost chastises or chides other Black women who are stepping into their purpose, owning their narrative, and speaking not just their truth, speaking truth to power, because full stop, let's not call it their truth, speaking truth to power. And I see the judgment and the disdain and the comments and the indirect posts that are very on the nose, judging others for what they post, or worse yet, not really supporting other Black women on their way up. And that is disheartening. But it harkens back to one of the rules in my book. Not going to give it away. You're going to have to get the book in order to figure out what that is, or to find out, I should say. But it harkens back to one of the rules in my book. But there's this constant, there's this belief or notion that if I pour into you, that takes away from me somehow. And there's one of the people that I follow on LinkedIn that is to me, one of the most amazing examples of true allyship. And I've been following her for forever, and I see others follow her too. And that's because the way her spirit is very magnetic, and that's just all there is to it. So I follow this individual, and what I love about watching how she operates is that she has no problem bigging up other people. And the individual I'm talking about is Lisa Hurley. And if you don't follow her, I don't know what you're doing with your life. Go follow her. She's really good. And I actually shouted her out in one of my articles that I wrote about because I was 100% fangirling. She's one of my sheroes and I have no shame about it. But Lisa Hurley does something really amazing to me in her platform that is, I think, is several 100,000. That much I remember. And she has a fantastic space called Space to Exhale. And she uses her platform to highlight and big up other Black women, which really is amazing. And I find that something that we should all be aspiring to. She doesn't feel that it takes away from her. And I'm going to say this as someone that knows her personally because I don't. Who knows? You're still young. But I say this as just looking at her actions. I see how she takes the time to big up people. She actually took the time to thank me for shouting her out in my article. She didn't have to do that. So what I'm saying to you is, it doesn't take away from her because her platform and audience continues to grow. And I 100% believe there is power in that. And I'm hoping that we as Black women, especially those of us who are striving for a goal and reaching somewhere, I hope we pull more of us along with us. Someone else I follow, Ngozi Cadmus, I'm probably saying her first name wrong, so I apologize if that's the case. But she talks about how there are Black women who arrive and when they get there, they don't send the elevator back. And I see that. It makes me sad because I have often, and I still very much am, that Black woman in some ways that is waiting for the elevator to come back down because I am building out something. Although I have been in the industry for a very long time, this era that I'm currently in is new for me. And so it makes me sad. It makes me sad to see that we are often so busy focused on ourselves that we are not helping each other. And I hope we do that more because I feel that if we were just to reach back, if we each reach back, imagine the power, imagine how much more powerful we could be because we don't all operate in the same space. And even when we do, because it's 100% possible to be in the same space, we all manifest that gift differently, right? We all have organs, multiple organs in our body, but each of those organs operates differently and serves a different need, but their ultimate goal is to keep your body operating at an optimal level. And so it is very possible to still have a similar goal or function, an ultimate mission, if you will, and have a different purpose. And I hope that we spend more time focused on helping others and see how that will then benefit us in the long run. And that's what I really wanted to talk about today, because talking to my good friend last week really got me thinking about that and some of the challenges that I've struggled with, because you do feel and you see it where it's, if I help you, it takes away from me, or people ghost you, or you reach out and they don't reach back or respond. And it's very disheartening and discouraging. And I hope that we can do better, especially in 2025. I know it's not going to happen overnight, but I'm committing to do better. I'm committing to helping support any individual that reaches out to me. And I'm about putting my money where my mouth is, because I believe there is power in numbers. And if more of us were to take this stance, imagine where we could be. Imagine what we could do if we all banded together. That's my soapbox for today. That's really what I had on my heart to share. I hope it was helpful. I hope it at least gets you thinking and really helps maybe spark something different in you. Maybe do something better. Maybe be a better in a specific area than you were the day before. That's my hope. And I thank you for listening. I wrapped up another episode, and I hope you'll be back next week. Same time, same station, or wherever you get your podcasts. Obviously, this is on YouTube, but that's not the only place I am. I am wherever you get your podcasts. So if it's Spotify, if it's Apple Podcasts, Red Circle, wherever it is. I hope you'll join me back next week. Same time, same station, 7 p.m. Eastern. And check me out on YouTube so you can leave me a comment. I don't think any other place you can leave a comment except on YouTube. Definitely rate the podcast. I'd appreciate your input and feedback. I hope it's useful. I hope to see you all again next week. And until next time, take care.